Show. You are one-on-one with Wes the Sports Guy here on YouTube and online all the time at westhesportsguy.com. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell if you want to get all the notifications of all the latest videos here on the YouTube channel. And make sure you also bookmark westhesportsguy.com as well. The Stanley Cup Final Preview is posted. It's live. Go check it out. And we'll get to the Stanley Cup Final Preview here on this show in just a moment. But as always, I would encourage you to use the hashtag #OneOnOneWest to participate in the weekly conversations. If you want to talk about whatever the case may be in the sports realm, use that hashtag #OneOnOneWest, and I can see what you're talking about and partake in the conversation as well, whatever the case may be. But let's get right into it with the Stanley Cup Final. It's finally happening. It seems like forever since there was a hockey game, but it's only been about a week by the time the Stanley Cup Final gets underway on Monday. Between the St. Louis Blues and Boston Bruins. The St. Louis Blues just recently took care of the San Jose Sharks in 6 games, finished business there with a kind of a depleted roster in the San Jose Sharks, which you can look at the history of the playoff run for San Jose this year so far, and it's been kind of, you could dare say, lucky run for their part. But again, you've got to win the games, and they did win the games, whether or not you thought it was fair in some outcomes or not. But St. Louis got past that. They were the better team. San Jose had a bit of a short-handed roster going into Game 6, but they still showed up to try to play and win the game. That's the whole point of what Herm Edwards said when he was the head coach of the New York Jets, but kind of going off topic here. Regardless, saying St. Louis Blues are in. Congratulations to them. This is now their 4th Stanley Cup Final appearance in franchise history. Yes, 4th. And the reason why I say it's been 4 is because the first 3 appearances that they've had in the Stanley Cup Final was their first 3 years of existence against the Montreal Canadiens in the first 2 years, and then the Boston Bruins in the last appearance that they had in the Stanley Cup Final in 1970. So lo and behold, they're playing the Boston Bruins once again. And for the Bruins, this is going to be in a line of many Stanley Cup Finals appearances for them. This is a more bigger break, you could say, between championship appearances with the Boston Bruins as per se the Boston Celtics and their recent lore, and also most recently the New England Patriots. But focusing on the Bruins here, that line of Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak, it is probably one of the best forward lines that we've seen in any playoff run in quite some time. Sheer dominance is what you could describe them, and that's both at even strength and on the power play especially. They are just a dominant line. Very hard to combat those three. They complement each other very well, and they're heating up at the right time. There was some question as to whether or not that line should break up because of the depth issues there kind of was happening with the Bruins. That's not the case anymore. They're a very, very deep team. They've been one of the deepest teams in the entire playoffs so far. And looking at what they have with the St. Louis Blues, it's going to be a very competitive matchup, you could say, between the forward group of what Boston has and what defensively St. Louis can match up with them. With Pietrangelo, their captain, Bouwmeester, Parayko, those are huge defensemen, 6'4" plus, those 3 specifically. But it's a good defensive group nonetheless with the Blues, with what they're going to go up against with the Boston Bruins and what they can accomplish on offense. And then, of course, you got the goaltenders. You got Tuukka Rask, who's probably the Conn Smythe favorite right now. Granted, if Boston does end up losing the Stanley Cup Final, I'm not going to give it to a guy that was on the losing team, but he's making a strong case with the statistics that he's putting up. Goals against average that's below 1.5 right now. His save percentage is almost 95% in the entire playoffs. That's not just one series. That's the entire playoffs. He's had those kinds of numbers, and it's just an amazing streak that he's on right now. He's also, of course, on a 6-game winning streak, I should say, going into the Stanley Cup Finals. But the other side of it, St. Louis with their goaltender, Jody Bennington, who's probably going to be the Calder Trophy winner. He's a finalist for that award, which is Rookie of the Year in the NHL. They, of course, have names for their trophies, but again, that's Rookie of the Year for the novices out there. But again, Stanley Cup Final, this is a very good matchup, you could say, between two teams that really weren't on a lot of projections going into the playoffs at the start, let alone beginning of the season. I mean, yeah, St. Louis probably should have been a playoff team for the beginning of the season. They had some rough patches to start. Boston, they've been a consistent team all the way through, but there were some doubts going into the playoffs considering who else was in the East, mainly Washington, Tampa Bay, 2 teams to name that could have gotten in their way. But looking at it overall, this should be a very good Cup final. It'll be competitive. It'll be physical. It'll be all those things that you want. And nonetheless, it should be entertaining to see. And if you want to see who I predict to win the Stanley Cup final, you got to go to westthesportsguy.com and check that out for a more in-depth preview of the Stanley Cup. And be sure to tune in to your local listings. It's going to be NBC, NBCSN, whatever those channels are, and even streaming it online as well, which is probably what I'm going to be doing because I don't have a cable subscription, but that's beside the point again. Again, hashtag #OneOnOneWest if you want to talk about the Stanley Cup final going into the action. The NBA is going to have a new opponent for the Golden State Warriors who have made their 5th straight finals appearance after sweeping the Portland Trail Blazers. They're going to play either Toronto or Milwaukee. Looking at it right now, the 3-2 advantage goes to the Raptors into this weekend with the potential of clinching the Eastern Conference and making their first ever finals appearance in their franchise's history. That's going to be quite a sight to see if it does happen. If it doesn't happen and it goes to Game 7 back to Milwaukee, then it's exactly how I anticipated it happening. It should be a 7-game series. It's been good so far, and you've had some amazing performances out of the stars between Giannis and Kawhi Leonard, although Kawhi's had more than Giannis in this series. But regardless, it's been entertaining. It's been good. I look forward to seeing either one of those teams battle the Golden State Warriors. And it's also looking like Kevin Durant might not be available to start the NBA Finals, but nonetheless, the Warriors will need Kevin Durant to have a more competitive advantage, you could say, because he is considered one of the top 3 players in the game right now. Face facts, he is one of the best right now. He is almost unguardable. Not many guys can guard him, and regardless of who plays the Warriors, that's intriguing to watch to see when he does make his appearance in the finals. Going into my feel-good story of the week, I would like to say thank you to the men and women who are currently serving and have served in our military. It's Memorial Day weekend, and we do send our heart-filled thanks and thoughts and prayers, of course, to the ones that did not make it. I salute all of you that are currently serving and have made the ultimate sacrifice for this country, and it is, without a doubt, the greatest country in the world. Every country has its flaws, but this is by far the one country that affords the most opportunity, not just for its citizens, but really for the entire world. And if it wasn't for this country, we would just be in dire straits, crap everywhere. It would not be a very good time to be alive without the United States of America. So say what you want about our faults. We have many. Every country does. No country is ever perfect. But the good far outweighs the bad, in my opinion. And you do have to remember the good times and the bad times, and you move forward with trying to make yourself better than what you were. And that's what the evolution of this country has been. It's been a much better country for the good and for many, many more generations to come. So I thank you all for making that sacrifice. And to the military families as well, I thank you. I grew up in a military family, and we know what it's like. We know those sacrifices that you do make on a day in, day out, daily basis. And I salute all of you as well. You make sacrifices as well for your country, and we do appreciate that. And many military charities are out there. I can mention a few right now, 22kill.org, where they help veterans get through potentially having suicidal thoughts, PTSD. Essentially, it's started because the average veteran that commits suicide is 22 every day, and that's way, way too many, and it shouldn't even be 1. So their goal is to make that 0 suicides for veterans. We've also got the Fisher House, Wounded Warrior Project. There's lots of great veterans military charities out there, so I encourage you to make a donation. Not just this weekend, but also make a continuing monthly donation. You know, it could be $1, it could be $5, it could be anything. I encourage you to support those charities as much as you possibly can. In the meantime, I do thank you for tuning in. This has been episode 50. This has been a very, very I've enjoyed every moment of this road that I've had for over a year on this channel, and I'm just going to take a little bit of a break, not a long break, but a little bit of a break. But if you want to see the updates and everything else, you can go to Instagram, you can go to Facebook, you can go to westthesportsguy.com as well. Find me in all those social media platforms. Probably not so much Twitter. Twitter has its own little issues, but again, that's regardless. do check me out on the social media platforms and see what's going on. But until then, I will see you all next time. I thank you all.